A serious threat to human health is getting global attention and prompting action. If left untreated, it could lead to diabetes that can result in blindness and amputations. It could also trigger sudden fatal heart attacks and even lead to cancer. It turns out that the root cause of various deadly illnesses is this: glucose spike. Normally, the body's blood sugar level changes gradually. However, when a glucose spike occurs, the level skyrockets.
Medicine has ignored the harmful effects of the glucose spike for a long time, but it undermines our health, even as we are unaware of it.
Surveys show that in Japan alone, an estimated 14 million people or more have glucose spikes. This condition is being discovered even among people found to be healthy in ordinary medical examinations. It even occurs in these slender young women. Glucose spike is on the rise, regardless of age and gender. Can we identify who are the most vulnerable group of people? To find out, we'll conduct an experiment with the cooperation of 3 companies. These people all have normal blood sugar levels in a regular medical examination on an empty stomach. A glucose spike is known in medical terms as postprandial hyperglycemia. In other words, a very high blood sugar level after eating. In this survey, everyone will consume 2 rice balls and vegetable juice which contains fruit juice. We'll measure their blood sugar levels 1 hour after eating. When a person eats, it's normal for his or her blood sugar level to rise. But if it goes higher than 140, it's judged to be a glucose spike. Before eating, this woman in her 20s had a glucose level of 82. 1 hour after eating, it's 110. There's been no glucose spike. This fit-looking man is in his 20s. Before eating, his glucose level was 97. After eating, the level jumped to 233, much higher than the 140 benchmark. Then, many of the subjects were revealed to have glucose spikes one after another. The tests are done using the latest blood glucose level measuring device. While the measuring device is attached to this man's arm, changes in his blood sugar level can be constantly monitored. The man carries on with his normal activities as the device records a glucose spike without him noticing it. Here's a look at the normal changes in the glucose level for a healthy person. The level rises after eating, but not steeply. However, for this man, the level jumps past 140 after eating. It returns to a normal range after a few hours. The roller coaster changes in the glucose level occur repeatedly after eating. Why is this happening? Glucose contained in food that is eaten is absorbed into the bloodstream from the intestines. The blood glucose level is the amount of glucose or sugar in the blood. Normally, when the glucose level rises, insulin is released into the bloodstream from the pancreas. The role of insulin is to send glucose to muscle and other cells throughout the body. This action regulates the rise of the blood sugar level. However, in the case of people who experience glucose spikes, it's believed there are 2 causes. The first is a reduced ability to produce insulin. Because of that, glucose is not taken in sufficiently by cells, spiking the blood sugar level. The other is that even though the body produces enough insulin, some cells aren't efficient at absorbing glucose. In this case as well, glucose in the bloodstream builds up. Thus, for people with these irregular functions, glucose spikes occur after eating. Of the 65 people who showed no blood sugar level problems in medical examinations, a surprising 20 were found to have glucose spikes. Why is it difficult to detect this condition in regular medical examinations? It is because the blood sugar level is checked when the person has not eaten anything. Even for a person with glucose spike, on an empty stomach, the glucose level is kept within a normal range. This is why it's difficult to detect. In cooperation with Japan's Kyushu University, the town of Hisayama in southwestern Japan has spent many years to detect glucose spikes. These tests revealed some astonishing facts. Of the some 8,000 residents over 40 years of age in the town, more than 20% experienced glucose spikes.
Some would say this number of people who have glucose spikes is too high, but the town of Hisayama is doing this highly accurate glucose tolerance test on almost all residents, including healthy and non-healthy people. We believe it's revealing the actual situation.
If the same proportion of glucose spikes proves true for Japan as a whole, it would add up to more than 14 million people. This would mean about 1 Japanese in 4 over the age of 40 gets glucose spikes. When glucose levels rise sharply, reactive oxygen is produced in large quantities in cells. This substance damages the cells. Then, when the cells try to repair themselves, immune cells are attached to the artery walls and are absorbed into them. The artery walls swell and become narrow in those places. That's how the arteries become hardened. The latest technology provides video footage that captures this process. This is the inner lining of the arteries of mice that are subject to glucose spikes. Let's enlarge the inner wall. Black spots are concentrated in the damaged lining. They are immune cells that have attached to the artery. Whenever we have a glucose spike, the hardening of our arteries occurs little by little.
A glucose spike is not a precursor of diabetes. A glucose spike itself can be called a disease. It damages the heart. It damages the blood vessels. It is causing cardiovascular disease.
Other research has shown that people who have glucose spikes have a 1.9 times greater risk of suffering a heart attack or a stroke because of hardening of the arteries. And that's not all. People experiencing glucose spikes are 1.6 times more likely to have Alzheimer's-type cognitive impairment. The key culprit is amyloid beta protein, a waste deposit that builds up in the brain and is considered to be behind Alzheimer's. People susceptible to glucose spikes often have diminished cell capacity to absorb glucose. When that happens, the pancreas releases large amounts of insulin to decrease the amount of sugar in the bloodstream. When it's transported to the brain, this insulin becomes troublesome. Normally, a certain type of enzyme breaks down amyloid beta protein. However, when large amounts of insulin flow into the brain, this enzyme breaks down the insulin before the amyloid beta. The intact amyloid beta accumulates in the brain. The nerve cells then die, and this promotes dementia. Moreover, when a glucose spike occurs, cells generate great amounts of reactive oxygen. This reactive oxygen damages DNA within cells in the body, creating a 1.5 times greater risk of cancer. Glucose spikes really are the source of serious illnesses.